presença do Dr. Rui Capo, que é um conhecido especialista em medicina do trabalho, poderá trazer aos presentes novas abordagens na gestão dos vossos recursos humanos, aqueles que estão aqui de recursos humanos. Aos gestores aqui presentes também, é mais uma forma também de poderem ver como mitigar o risco das vossas empresas. Mitigando o risco das vossas empresas, conseguirão também obter da parte da indústria seguradora uma colaboração muito mais próxima e muito mais real e efetiva na gestão do bom risco. Quero aproveitar também para agradecer a alguns dos parceiros que temos na sala. A Bonws, desde o primeiro dia, que disse que era uma companhia que se ia dedicar à gestão do risco. Nós não vendemos seguros. Nós somos consultores de seguros e gestores de risco. Deixamos isso para os nossos parceiros corretores, que também sabem fazer o seu trabalho, e são eles, sim, a fonte dinamizadora do crescimento da Bonws. À equipa da Bonws aqui também presente, aproveito também para agradecer todo o esforço que tem vindo a ser feito durante este último ano e meio da minha presença à frente dos destinos da Bonws. Também sem eles não seria possível estarmos a realizar este fórum. E aproveitar mais uma vez para agradecer a toda a equipa que proporcionou a organização deste fórum. Com isto não me alongo mais e chamarei de seguida o Mr. Duncan, que nos vai falar de perdas e incapacidades dos recursos humanos e assim como alguns detalhes do mercado de Londres dentro destas áreas. Mr. Duncan, please, when you want. Bom dia e obrigado.
Estava na outra página. Não, não. Primeira é Introduction. Sim. Perfeito. Obrigado, Luís Pedro. Bom dia, senhoras e senhores. Meu nome é Duncan Hubber e eu trabalho para a companhia RK Harrison, RKH Specialty, em Londres. Eu falo português, mas eu peço desculpa por duas razões. Primeira, o meu acento brasileiro, desculpa. E segundo, faz 30 anos que eu estou em Londres, então o português está bastante enferrujado. Então me desculpa. Por parte da RKH Specialty, eu queria agradecer a Bonws para convidar-nos a esse primeiro fórum de seguradora da atividade petrolífera. Então, a RKH Specialty, como disse o slide, é um corretor independente do mercado de seguros e resseguros de Londres. E como um corretor independente, o nosso valor é apoiar os seguradores no mundo inteiro que querem acessar o mercado internacional de resseguros. Desculpa. Ok. Uma falha técnica, um momentinho. Passamos. Ok. Então, a RKH Specialty, nossa sede é em Londres, mas temos escritórios no Miami, na Bermuda, em Singapura e brevemente em Hong Kong. A companhia RKH Specialty, temos por parte do grupo Hyperion, nós somos parte do grupo Hyperion, e a RK8 Specialty somos os especialistas nos ramos que são difíceis de colocar nos mercados nacionais no mundo. Também temos no grupo Hyperion, temos a Howden, que é um corretor varejo global, e também a Dual, que é no lado de subscrição. Temos uma rede global. No slide, vocês vão ver os pontos azuis, que são os escritórios da Howden, os pontos verdes, que são a Dual, o lado de subscrição, e o vermelho, que é a RK Specialty e a RK Reinsurance. Em total, estamos em 37 países no mundo, temos 121 escritórios e mais do que 3.000 pessoas empregadas pelo grupo Hyperion. Nós somos, no momento, o 5º maior corretor na Lloyd's. Isso é em termos de prêmio colocado no mercado de Lloyd's. E nós ficamos atrás dos primeiros 4, que são a Aon, a Marsh, a Willis e a JLT. Então, RK Specialty em termos de números. Nós colocamos no mercado internacional de seguros e resseguros, nós colocamos 3 bilhões de dólares de prêmio, e isso vem de clientes em 100 países no mundo. Trabalhamos a mais de 40 disciplinas e rendemos 200 milhões de dólares em corretagem. Em RK Specialty, nós temos 600 pessoas. E destas 600 pessoas, temos 300 corretores, que em inglês nós chamamos de brokers. Temos 60 especialistas em sinistros e temos 30 técnicos de redação. Esses são os 20 maiores mercados com quem nós trabalhamos. Alguns dos maiores, eu acho que vão reconhecer, a XL Catlin, a AIG, a Munich, a Zurich. Todas as companhias com que trabalhamos, colocamos os riscos dos nossos clientes, tem avaliação financeira, classe A, com AM Best, Fitch, Standard & Poor's. O nosso relacionamento com a Bonws, que temos muito orgulho, o nosso trabalho é de fornecer, de dar apoio para a Bonws, para acessar os mercados internacionais e o mercado de Londres, na colocação de risco. E o mercado internacional, o mercado de Lloyd's, o seu valor no mundo inteiro, mas aqui estamos falando da Angola, é em capacidade e linhas nichos. Esses riscos que são difíceis de colocar aqui em Angola. Agora eu queria introduzir o nosso time, que a gente tem hoje. A nossa organizadora excepcional, que é a Isabel Cardignon. Temos do lado energia, temos Sam Martin e David Wilson. Em saúde, temos Gareth Absalom, no final. E gerenciamento de crise, o Harry Linnell, o baixinho, está aqui. I said shorty, by the way. E da minha parte, morte e invalidez. E eu sou Duncan Huber. Nós temos 2 colegas que infelizmente não puderam vir com a gente, mas já fizeram muito trabalho com a Bonws. Isso é o Paul Redgate e o Patrick Dawson. Mas nas sacolinhas que vocês têm, nós temos biógrafos de todos nós e esse time maior. Então temos detalhes para vocês. Ok. Agora vamos a ver o lado de morte e invalidez. Ok, e agora eu peço desculpa pela terceira vez, porque no lado técnico eu tenho que voltar para o inglês. Então aqui tenemos death and disability insurance. So, the presentation here will comprise some facts and figures, which will give us, they're a little bit shocking, and I apologize for the shock. It's early in the morning, but I think it's important for us to get a flavor of the importance of this subject through some shocking numbers. Secondly, core benefits. This will help us understand the benefits that one would expect to find in a death and disability policy. And thirdly, products which are relevant to the oil and gas sector. Then I have some examples and some costs which bring the subject to life. And then finally, some standard exclusions that one would expect to find in a death and disability policy. Okay, so this is the shocking bit. These numbers were taken from the US market and they're non-industry specific. And again, this just gives us a flavor of what we're talking about and the probability of something terrible, a death or a disability, happening to one of the employees or colleagues that we have. So, in the US, the first point is a disabling injury occurs every 1 second and a fatal injury occurs every 4 minutes. Secondly, just over 1 in 4 of today's 20-year-olds will become disabled before they retire. So 25% of today's 20-year-olds will become disabled before they retire. The third point is taking an average male who's 35 years of age, 1 meter 78, 77 kilos, so an average person in relatively good shape, a non-smoker with an office job and a healthy lifestyle, so a fairly healthy person. This individual has a 21% chance of becoming disabled for 3 months or longer during his working career. And of that 21%, a 38% chance that the disability would last for 5 years or longer. Now, that same individual, if he uses tobacco, if he weighs a little bit more, 95 kilos, the risk increases to 45% from 21%. That's the chance of becoming disabled for 3 months or longer. Approximately 90% of disabilities are caused by illness as opposed to accidents. And the final point are that people are better financially prepared for death than they are for disability. However, the chance of disability is 5 times greater than death. Now, I apologize. This is a scary start to the presentation, but I think it's important to appreciate the value of death and disability insurance. Okay, so the core benefits. This will help us understand the products that we're talking about. To start with, we have life, or what we call in the London market natural causes only cover, and this is death by illness. And this is usually expressed as a multiple of salary, and the average is 4 times salary, and the maximum is 10 times salary. It can also be expressed as a lump sum. Accidental death, which is, as it sounds, death by accident, again is a multiple of salary or a flat lump sum. Then we have PTD, what we know as PTD, which is permanent total disablement. Permanent total disablement as a result of an accident or an illness. The benefit also is calculated as a multiple of salary or a flat lump sum. And we're talking here about someone being permanently and totally disabled, and usually from their usual occupation. Now, if I move on a couple of slides, or one slide, this is something to watch for in buying this cover. The broadest definition, the widest definition, is the top one. And the key bit are the words in red. So this is someone being disabled from an occupation that they are suited by training, education, industry knowledge, or experience. So the key here is someone's usual occupation. So it's quite broad. It can be an engineer in the oil and gas world. It could be a diver, saturation diver. It could be a rigger. Someone being disabled from their specific job. So it's quite broad, the definition, and it's what we deem as usual cover. And it's important that that is the one that you look for. At the other end of the scale, we have the narrowest cover, which is the items in blue. Someone in red. Anyone being disabled from any and every business or occupation. So any and every occupation. So if you think about it, you would have to be incredibly disabled not to do any and every occupation maybe blind and deaf, and maybe extremely paralyzed. So this is a very narrow cover and something to watch for. So going back to our list of core benefits, we have permanent partial disability. And this is usually expressed as a scale, on a scale of compensation with regard to the percentage driven by the degree of disability. And as it sounds, it's someone being permanently, partially disabled from their usual occupation. So this is a scale of permanent disabilities, just to give you an idea of how they calculate. And at the top, we have a 100% payout in the total loss of sight in both eyes, 100% payout. And this is 100% of the permanent total disability benefit. So this is deemed to be a very serious disablement. A loss of speech, 100% as well. Loss of both legs, 100%. These are all the most severe permanent disabilities that we cover on this scale. Then, at the bottom end of the scale, we have a loss of one arm or one hand. And this is expressed for a right-handed person. If it were a left-handed person, it would be the opposite way around. So for a right-handed person, if you lose one hand, you'd receive a payout of 60% if it's your right hand, and 50% if it's your left. The bottom one, amputation of 2 phalanges. You may not know what a phalange is. It's your joint in your finger. 2 of those, and you get 10% on your right hand, 8% on your left. So basically, the coverage here is covering the percentage is dictated by the severity of the disability. So that was permanent partial. And then finally, we have temporary total disablement. We call it TTD on a day-to-day basis. And this is calculated as a percentage of someone's weekly wage. The average here that we work with is 2/3 of someone's weekly wage, 66.67%, or the maximum is 75%. And this is as it sounds, someone being temporarily, totally unable to carry out their usual occupation. So those are the benefits, and now the products. And these products are the products that I thought were relevant to the oil and gas sector. Now the first list, these are what we call standard products, and these products are very easily available in a local national market. So group personal accident, corporate travel, group life. These are what employers buy commonly for their employees, and fully available. Where the London market can add value is on multinational products, where you want cover in more than one country. There's always a coverage element that there may be higher individual benefits that we can offer, but in general, these products are available locally and should be purchased locally. Then we have the specialty cover, which is where these are all about capacity. So we have key man, high income protector, shareholder protector, multi-life catastrophe accumulation. So often these are not available by virtue of the fact that the sums insured needed are very high, and they would unbalance a book in a local national economy. So taking each one in turn, the first one is group life and personal accident, and what we have at the top is a summary of the cover and then an example underneath. So the target market here are companies with employees, the insured person and the policy of the employees. The benefits themselves are death, PTD, which was permanent total disablement, PPD, which was permanent partial disablement. If you remember, these were a multiple of salary, average 4, maximum 10, or a flat lump sum. And then the TTD, the temporary disability, which is also known as an income protection cover. This was a monthly salary, a weekly or a monthly salary replacement. Now, average limits, as I mentioned, the capital benefits, 4 times salary up to $500,000, maximum 10 times. TTD, actually average 66, maximum 75, for 52 weeks in excess of 2 weeks. Coverage can be bought for longer, 104 weeks or even longer, but the most common is 52 weeks. So here's an example. This is a client of ours. They're a dive contractor company. They work in the oil and gas sector. The insured persons here are saturation divers, divers that go out to sea for 28 days at a time, stay on a vessel in a compressed cabin, and go down and work underwater at great depths for long periods of time. So sums insured here: death, $200,000, permanent total disablement and permanent partial disablement, $100,000. Temporary disability, total temporary disability, 2/3 of salary for 52 weeks in excess of 2 weeks. The premium here for the divers is $4.27 per person per day. The non-divers, these are the offshore support staff, $1.30 per person per day worked, and the onshore support personnel, 95 cents per person per day. A couple of comments about the coverage itself, a couple of clauses. Firstly are the actively at work clause, and this is to ensure that the lives that are being insured are fit and healthy at the inception of the policy. So meaning that someone is mentally and physically capable of carrying out their normal regular duties at their usual place of work for the hours of work. The second point is eligibility. Coverage is usually limited to 65 years of age. It can be bought up, but the usual is 65 years of age. And then adjustment premium. This is usually calculated as a deposit at the inception of the policy that is then adjusted at the end of the period of insurance, and is calculated on a rate on the average of the total sum insured at inception and the expiry of the policy. The second product I want to talk about is corporate travel. This again is a typical product that an employer would buy for its employees. So here it's companies with employees traveling on business, and the insured person are business travelers. The benefits here, the main benefits that you buy in a corporate travel policy are the emergency medical, evacuation, repatriation. In addition, you have standard travel benefits such as cancellation, curtailment, personal liability. The average limits are 4 times salary for the capital benefits for the death and the disability, and medical up to $10 million. An example here is a UK-based oil and gas contractor client of ours. They have insured people. Slow. Sorry. Um pouco mais devagar. Desculpa. So we have an insured, which is a UK-based company. The insured people, the employees, the contractors of the insured, and we're covering worldwide travel. So the scope is all over the world. The benefits: accidental death, permanent total disablement, permanent partial disablement, medical, very important, cancellation and curtailment, personal liability, and political evacuation. The sums insured in this product, in this example: 4 times salary, up to $500,000 for the management. $250,000 is the cap for the non-management. Medical expenses, which include evac, repat, $10 million. Cancellation, $10,000. Personal liability, $2 million. And that includes legal expenses of $25,000. And political evacuation, $100,000 per event, $25,000 per person. The premium for this policy is $75 per person per annum, and this company has 275 travelers, so a total of 20,625. Okay, now this is one of the specialty products. This is one of the niche products that will come to London when people need help with capacity, because the sums insured can be quite high. So the target market are corporations, companies, with staff who are key, savvy to the success of the business. The benefits we're talking about here are death, permanent total disablement, and total temporary disablement. And the limits: lump sum benefits for death and PTD, up to $20 million, TTD, up to $500,000 per month for 24 months in excess of 2 weeks. The deductible can be increased, and the premium would come down. So the example we have here is a client who's an oil and gas contractor. They have 10 specialist engineers, and the benefits are accidental death, permanent total disablement, total temporary disablement. Each engineer is responsible for $100,000 of turnover per month. That's the financial justification for the coverage. So the AD, accidental death, and the permanent total disability benefit is $1.2 million per lump sum, per person, a lump sum. The temporary disability is $100,000 per person per month that they are unable to work for 12 months. The premium, accidental death, permanent total disablement, is 0.2%, a rate, on the sum insured of 1.2 million. For the 10 people that are covered, $24,000. For the temporary disability, 0.3% on the sum insured, times 10, $36,000. So that's key man. This next product is for companies that are structured as partnerships, and it's called shareholder protection. And what it does, it covers the shareholders of privately owned business, and it follows the conditions of a partnership agreement. The benefits we have here are accidental death, permanent total disablement, and the lump sum benefits, which are very high, $100 million any one person. So the example we have here is an investment company where there are 4 partners, 4 founding partners, and the benefits, accidental death, permanent total disablement, again to protect the conditions of the partnership agreement, and the sum insured is $5 million per partner, and the premium is calculated as 2 per mil, 0.2% on the sum insured, $20 million, so $40,000. That's shareholder protection. The next product is multi-life catastrophe accumulation risk. The target market here is employers with large concentrations of staff in one place, for example, in a building, one building. Benefits, accidental death, permanent total disablement, permanent partial disablement. The limits available, $500 million, so a very, very big limit. The insured, in our example here, is a company head office where they have 2,500 employees in their head office building, and the company covers 100% of their exposure. So the benefits are AD, accidental death, permanent total disablement, permanent partial disablement. The sums insured, $100 million in excess of $50 million, and they get the total sums insured exposure is $150 million, which is calculated as 4 times annual salary, where the average annual salary is $15,000. So this is 4 times $15,000 times 2,500 people is your exposure of $150 million. Now, coverage was obtained locally for the first $50 million of exposure, and this was an excess policy that was placed above. So the rate, 0.3% times the sum insured, 100 million, times a 50% group discount gives you $150,000. That's multi-life catastrophe. So, just to conclude, these are some exclusions that one would expect to find in a death and disability policy in the international market. So the first up is war and civil war. This is passive war, so not someone not being actively involved in war, so passive war. Biological or chemical terrorism, nuclear reaction, nuclear radiation, or radioactive contamination. We would not cover for armed forces, and this tends to be reservists. Flying, other than as a passenger. So as a passenger, you're covered. As a pilot, you need to buy a special policy. Exclusion for suicide or attempted suicide or intentional self-injury. A deliberate exposure to exceptional danger unless someone is attempting to save a human life. And a criminal act by the insured person. All of these exclusions. And finally, an insured person being intoxicated with alcohol or drugs. Okay, so that's death and disability. And I'll now hand you over to Gareth Absalon, who will take you through health.
Mr. Duncan. E de seguida o nosso colega Garrett vai-nos falar um pouco das opções de evacuação em Angola, assim como também os benefícios e as coberturas das apólices ligadas mais a soluções de saúde internacionais.
Bom dia. My Portuguese is very small, so bom dia. As Duncan did, to set the scene, I want to give some background on the product that I'm going to talk about today, which is primarily international healthcare. That said, I had a very good conversation with Louise yesterday, talking about healthcare for the domestic market. So hopefully, we will be invited back to the second conference next year to talk about domestic healthcare. International private medical insurance is designed primarily for expatriates living abroad and working abroad. And to set the scene for the size of the market, I've quoted some statistics about the size, and this hopefully will then illustrate the opportunity for those who work in the insurance industry, but also the need for those who have employees who are working in Angola as expatriates. The global market for international healthcare, as you'll see here, is $13 billion. With medical inflation, and medical inflation varies from country to country, but is approximately 10% per annum, by 2019, or certainly 2020, will be a $20 billion market. So it is an absolutely massive market. You'll see further down that there are 105 million expatriates, and those are generally those who are working. There are reports that in fact there are closer to 250 million expatriates, people working out of their country. The interesting thing from an opportunity perspective is that currently only 10% of those expatriates are buying international healthcare. So as an opportunity to grow and deliver products, it's absolutely massive. And as knowledge and understanding and awareness of what good healthcare is, as it grows, so will the demand for good quality health insurance. When recruiting expatriates, one of the most important things for that expatriate is how prepared they are to come into the country, to understand the healthcare system and what services are available. Even more so when you have expatriates coming in with their family, with their children, it's critical for them to understand how the healthcare service works and where good treatment is available. Many expats are looking for enhanced products. This is at the same time that employers are cutting back some of the benefits. So there is a need not just for an employee product, but also for the ability to provide a top-up that sits above what an employer will provide to their staff. With regards to the frequency with which that product is used, the number of young expats, and from my perspective, the ideal expat is 30 to 35 years of age because they tend to be much fitter than I am, but also they're a good health risk. But even then, there is a frequency of utilization to show the need for that cover. Emergency medical evacuation insurance is essential when sending employees to work in remote, underdeveloped, or high-risk regions of the world. From oil and gas workers to administrative staff, they all have the need for good cover. The one variation is that in certain industries, there is the additional exposure beyond illness to accidents. In instances, local services may be lacking. And if the unexpected happens, there has to be a network to provide the ability to take out that individual from their situation, where they are, to give and receive good treatment. I'm conscious that Duncan was asked to slow down. I tend to speak 2 or 3 times quicker than he does, and Harry is even faster. So I will try to stay slow. I thought I would share some information that you are probably already familiar with because it relates to Angola. There are a growing number of expatriates coming to the country. Many of those come from Europe, and there is clearly a strong link to Portugal, but also to the other European countries because of the oil industry and the other industries here. Expats are always advised to purchase international health insurance that includes travelling to other countries to be treated. And not surprisingly, one of the most important destinations for treatment is Johannesburg, because it is still close. But because of the makeup of the expatriates living here, they will go to France or Portugal. But it is always important to remember that the expats who live here, at the end of their treatment, will want to come back to here. I tried to get information as to exactly how many expats are working in Angola. The only number I can see relates to tourists, but I suspect that's fairly close to those working here. That is 481,000. So even if that number is less, as a market size, for our friends at Bonws to target, there is a substantial opportunity to go and build a good portfolio. There are then those that leave Angola, be it temporarily or permanently, and there are approximately 500,000 who go abroad, and lists here the key country. And there is always a bias towards Portuguese states, so be it Portugal or Brazil, but also the Mediterranean countries, Britain and the US. So again, they are targets to secure them as insureds before they leave on their travels. In the same way that Duncan prepared a slide to shock, but in fact it's actually stating the case of what actually happens, I wanted to do a slide to show exactly what being ill in Angola means now for somebody here. So there is investment, and with the oil companies, many of the oil companies were given as a condition to coming into the country that they had to invest in facilities, in clinics. There is some improvement, but it still has a very long way to go. There is a chronic shortage of qualified healthcare workers. The most frightening piece of information is that in a country with 20 million people, there are 1,200 doctors. That is a very, very, very low proportion of the population, and it means that many people will not have access to quality treatment. I probably won't go into quite the same detail that Duncan did, because to me there are probably 2 or 3 key elements of a healthcare policy, and it's just to focus on them. Inpatient, and generally for inpatient treatment, you will be taken out of the country. And so it'll either be south to Namibia or to South Africa or north to Portugal or France for that treatment. outpatient benefits, generally the consultations that don't require an overnight stay in hospital, there is probably slightly more service here. I asked a good friend of mine when I saw her in Johannesburg a couple of weeks ago about the healthcare system because she works in assistance. And she was somewhat glib, but she said that for any condition worse than a sprained ankle, you almost have to consider being taken out. Now that is an exaggeration, but it's somebody who works in assistance, who sees regular cases, and their advice is that for anything that in other cultures might not require that, there is a need here to be evacuated out. So evacuation is a core part of the required cover, which is the third point now. Beyond that, and obviously this depends on the environment from the employer, are enhancements such as maternity, well-being benefits, dental benefits, security, and that's a point that I'm sure Harry will talk at length about a little later on, mental health, and then the international assistance. So talking about the enhancements, the first is for employee assistance, and that goes beyond simply healthcare. I had a young lady who worked for me who previously worked at Bupa, and she, whenever talking about EAP, employee assistance, used to refer to me what it was like for a woman working in Saudi Arabia. And in Saudi Arabia, whether you have a healthcare problem or a financial problem, women are not allowed out of the compound. They have no one they can talk to. So to have a helpline there is a very useful tool when you're in a different country, you don't necessarily understand the language, your partner may be working, and yet you're not. So it's to give a more rounded service to the customer base. Second opinion, again, is very relevant because Luis and I spoke about that yesterday. And there are 3 or 4 providers, and Luis is talking to 1 or 2 of them already, who can provide that second opinion product where you can access qualified doctors who will read your file notes, they will take blood tests, and give you the comfort of knowing whether or not the first opinion you received has recommended the best treatment for your condition. And the final just really sits back in where Harry will talk in a short while with regards to the crisis management and the fact that with assistance comes far more than just looking after your health as it is now. I'm conscious that the slide of exclusions has a great many exclusions there. So to me, just to pull out 1 or 2, pre-existing conditions, depending on whether or not you were screened, what conditions were applied, whether your policy was medically underwritten at the outset or your history is disregarded. Anything that's intentional, so similar to the exclusions that Duncan mentioned, drug addiction or alcoholism, chemical contamination are all standard exclusions within a healthcare policy. Claims. Claims is the most important part of a healthcare policy. And much as I would like to claim that people buy health insurance because I'm a very nice person, they buy because when they're ill or they've been in an accident, they need a quality service. And the critical thing, in England I referred to it as the moment of truth. The moment of truth is when you're at your weakest, at your sickest, and you need assistance, not now, but there and then. And on average, it will take between 5 to 6 hours to arrange an evac out of the country. But the way that the service is delivered is everything. And ultimately, if someone has a bonus healthcare policy, all their customer will remember how the assistance company, how the claims company treated them as a patient. So it is key that we introduce good partners for Bonws to work with. So what is good claims management? To assist clients with a tailored solution. Give patients a personalised service. Bear in mind that if somebody is ill or unwell, they may well be here with their partner, with their family, and it's to give them the comfort and support as well, which is critical. At a time of stress when you're not well, the last thing you want to be is thinking that a member of your family is even more uncertain and concerned. Protect clients and patients financially. To make sure that the patient receives the best possible treatment. To be honest with clients and patients, and to make them feel safe and secure in a foreign environment. And bear in mind that if these people are being evacuated out of this country, they're going elsewhere where they may have no family or friends to support them. So a good assistance company will go in and visit on a daily basis to make sure that the patient is getting the appropriate treatment, but also that they're comfortable in their environment. So the claims process should advise and, where appropriate, issue a guarantee of payment, what is referred to in insurance terms as a GOP. A management plan for that process will be put together so that the patient, their family, their employer will know what will happen over the next few days, the next few weeks, as that individual is brought back to good health. If the decision is one of evacuation, which generally will be to South Africa, my own view is that it should always be to the place where the most appropriate treatment is, which is not always the country where people want to go. I saw a case 2 years ago. A man in China, a British person, had terminal cancer, and his children insisted on flying him from China back to London. Because of the treatment he needed, the flight had to fly at a low level for 12 hours. He was given, before the flight, a 2-month life expectancy. He died in an aircraft, going home, purely because his children wanted him to fly home to England rather than what was best for him as an individual. So where the professional advice is to take treatment in Johannesburg, not go to the Americas or go to Europe, my encouragement will always be go where the assistance company, your insurance company advises that you can have the best treatment. Don't embark on a 12-hour flight when you're not well. To fly people out is a challenge. There are some countries that it's easier to sign papers and to be taken, others not. So the assistance company will work with you to ensure that all the clearance requirements are met, to offer a medical qualified service, ensure a fast activation, obtain real-time updates, again, to the individual, to their family, to their employer, ensure compliance with all medical clearances, and that's critical because if you're going in with a contagious illness, it's to make sure that you can go to the country where they're advising you to. And finally, to arrange the most appropriate facility for that treatment. Now, there are a number of good assistance companies. They've been doing this for many years. My recommendation is to work, though, with local assistance companies rather than necessarily global ones, because it is people who live here that need the treatment, not who live in other parts of the world. So, this slide here, and apologies because my glasses are, and I can't read it, but I wanted to present a slide to show what are the key aspects of a good proposition. So, forgive me one moment. The moment of truth in healthcare is the ability to assist and provide the appropriate level of treatment when your policyholder, your employee, is unwell. Partnering with service experts and a company that understands the need for good partners in delivery, I think, is essential. And forgive me, because I didn't understand what Duncan was saying in Portuguese, but my thanks to Louise for giving me the opportunity to come here, because I think Angola represents a truly great opportunity. I think Africa, to those of us who live in the UK, has often been somewhere too far, and there's a significant opportunity for us to come and work with our friends across the broader territory as the continent develops further. Beyond just a standard international healthcare proposition, there are alternatives. I met a company recently, and I have 2 or 3 slides, but we'll probably just talk through them, whose model is to screen employees before they've been deployed into a country. So they go in and they check that that individual is fit and well to go to the country where they're going to work. They then provide access to clinical specialists who will screen them on a regular basis, be it 4 or 5 months. And what they've asked me is, can I find an evacuation product? And to me, this is a really, really good thing, because from an employer's perspective, the cost of recruitment for sometimes highly paid individuals is expensive. And the last thing as an employer you want is that the moment that individual comes to the country that they're unwell. They gave me an example of the managing director of a business, and he said, no, I'm too important to be screened. I don't want you to check my medical records. And they advised and cautioned the individual that it would be for his own good health. He ignored their advice and went into a country in Africa. Within 4 weeks, he had a heart attack and was dead, because he didn't listen to the advice. So to me, there is an opportunity to create a service to do the screening, and then an insurance product for the most severe conditions, because it will only be severe conditions that result in having to be taken out of the country, because the screening on a regular basis will pick up any other conditions. So to me, it will ensure the safe and reliable movement of staff. It will provide the workforce health management, occupational health care, emergency management, day-to-day access to general medicine, and payment mechanisms. The key is to partner with local specialists, a local insurer, a local assistance company, and a local service provider who can do the screening. In country, it provides travel support and assistance with local claims, and then when there's an evacuation, it will take care of the hospital admission, the costs, etc. The insurance solution, and I guess it's the insurance solution because I've been in the insurance market for a very long time, is what interests me greatly, is to provide the product, to provide the evacuation, and to pay for that, to help customers. More than anything, to me, healthcare is the ability to help individuals. And to me, that's a really great thing. And so whilst I used to say to my children, insurance is not always interesting, to me, creating products that bring value is truly interesting. And that, as they say, is the end. Duncan and I are free to take questions if you'd like to ask any questions. You don't have to, but we would be delighted to answer any questions on our subject, should you wish to.
Mr. Garrett, muito obrigado. Brilhante apresentação. E uma vez mais, ficamos aqui com um leque de soluções e de práticas que se tem vindo a confirmar noutros territórios e noutros locais. Algumas delas, são soluções conhecidas por quem está nesta sala, outras nem tanto. O desafio do Mr. Garrett foi exatamente se existem questões que possam querer colocar neste momento a qualquer um dos oradores anteriores acerca de qualquer uma dos assuntos debatidos. Please, Mr. Põe aí o microfone. Põe aí já. Obrigado,
I am
Sr.
sorry.
Afonso Gonzalez.
I was asking, which is the top limit of age to cover that that you show us?
Generally, healthcare will go up to probably 60 or 65 years of age. But as with most insurance, the older the individual, the more expensive the insurance. Sorry, as I said, healthcare insurance will go for expats to 65 or more, but is dependent upon price. Most expats working abroad will be aged between 30 to 45 years of age. People tend to return home to their countries after they've worked abroad for 10 or 15 years.
Hi, hello. Is it possible to, do you have any information in regarding to the screening? Can we make it mandatory? Can our regulator specify that the offer or the job offer is conditional to a health screening?
I don't believe currently that it is compulsory, but from an employer's perspective, the recruitment process and the expense of that process means that the last thing that they want, other than obviously an employee being unwell, is to then have to go and commence the recruitment again. So to me it is currently good practice, and there are certain countries that you're probably aware that make healthcare compulsory. I spend quite a lot of time in Dubai, and the local regulator made healthcare compulsory for all expats, regardless of earnings, because in many countries where tax is very, very low or zero, there is no funding for healthcare treatment, so therefore the state will not accept an expat coming in, so insurance is compulsory. To me, I don't know enough about your local regulators or legislators, but I would encourage that healthcare for all expats is pushed the same way as in Dubai.
Bom dia, Gabriel Cangueza. Eu vou falar mesmo em português. Quais as técnicas e soluções para o controle ou combate?
Engenheiro Gabriel, deixa eu preparar-me tecnicamente, já está. Pode começar outra vez, por favor.
Sim. Que técnicas ou soluções tem para o controle ou o combate das fraudes no seguro de saúde? Conte-nos a vossa experiência.
Well, that's a very interesting question. And I guess when I flew over, I thought there would be certain questions. That wasn't one of them. Fraud is very prevalent, and I met a lady from Bupa. Bupa is a very large healthcare provider, and they have their own fraud department. And the only way to effectively manage it is for one insurer to talk to the next insurer. Now, I was aware, or made aware, of a claim where one person had hospital receipts, invoices, and they had put the same invoice into 6 different insurers. They made the same claim 6 times for the same treatment. So, to me, one of the challenges is that if insurers don't talk to each other, so I would recommend a database be shared. And I had a team of claims experts in my previous role, and they would pride themselves on being able to find fraud claims. But the cost to insurers runs into tens of millions of dollars every year. So to me, the best way is for insurers to talk and share information. Duncan is happy to answer questions as well.
Hi, Duncan and Garrett. Congratulations for your presentations. My answer or my curiosity goes to Duncan. Do you have experience in sell the products that you presented here to Angolan companies, for example, the shareholder insurance? Is it possible to obtain this type of insurance directly from your company in UK, or shall we go to your partner here in Angola?
We don't currently have any Angolan clients. No momento nós não temos clientes angolanos para esse produto Shareholder Protection. Eu sugeria nós trabalharíamos com a Bonws e construíamos esse produto. Temos esse produto com resseguradores em Londres e é só passar para a Bonws para que eles possam trabalhar com você e seus clientes com isso. Mas é um produto interessante do mercado de Londres e é interessante porque é desses nichos com sumas asseguradas bem altas que é difícil de absorver em qualquer mercado local no mundo inteiro. Mesmo no mercado dos Estados Unidos, é uma grande linha que vem para Londres dos Estados Unidos, porque é o mesmo problema que eles têm lá. São sumas asseguradas bem altas. É 100 milhões de dólares de suma assegurada. É bem alto.
Duncan, queria fazer uma... Posso falar em português?
E quem é a senhora, por favor? O seu nome, por favor?
É Kátia Silveira. Eu sou a diretora comercial da Bonws. A minha pergunta é, quando vocês têm uma incapacidade, seja ela parcial ou total, e vocês identificam isso através de um médico, que é o médico assistente do paciente, pode haver alguma divergência entre essa posição do médico e a posição do médico que faz parte da equipe de vocês, e como que vocês conduzem essa possível divergência?
Essas divergências existem e ocorrem, mas o que nós vemos, o mercado de Londres prefere ter um médico no formulário. Então é muito comum o mercado mercado usar a opinião médica do cliente, do doutor do cliente. E em cada situação, opiniões médicas são isso, são opiniões. Então, você pode ter dois médicos bem inteligentes com duas opiniões diferentes. E isso é onde vem problemas para o mercado. Então, com experiências, eles têm, a maioria dos resseguros com que trabalhamos, estão confortáveis trabalhar com um médico. Isso não quer dizer que, de vez em quando, tem uma situação que eles não estão confortáveis com a resposta, aí eles pegam uma segunda opinião. Mas na maioria dos cases, eles usam a opinião do médico do cliente. Sim. É para não ter divergência de opinião.
Bom, já agora, parabéns pela vossa apresentação. Eu queria saber a vossa experiência em relação à lida com os clientes. Ou seja, vocês assumem um risco, mas participam no gerenciamento desse risco na empresa, ajudam a empresa a minimizar o risco, ou vocês simplesmente ficam à espera que sejam notificados para dar cobertura às apólices que vocês gerem? Não sei se me fiz entender.
O nosso trabalho é no lado de resseguro e é para dar apoio aos seguradores locais no mundo inteiro. Então, nesse caso, seria a Bonws. E, então, nós podemos compartilhar a nossa experiência e as primeiras palavras que o Luiz Pedro falou somos consultores de risco. Isso é o mais importante, é para dar conhecimento, compartilhar conhecimento para eles, para que a Bonws pode continuar com essa mente de ser consultores de risco e dar esse tipo de serviço para os clientes. Isso é uma coisa que é mais vou inventar a palavra agora, prevalent. Prevalent existe? Frequente, exato. No mundo de corretagem. É para agregar valor no gerenciamento de risco.
Eu fiz essa pergunta justamente porque eu vou falar um pouco sobre isso e acho que, apesar de vocês darem suporte às seguradoras, imagino que a vossa recomendação seja trabalhar o risco de maneira a evitar o sinistro por parte das empresas. Apesar de vocês fazerem, portanto, darem todo esse suporte e serem o lado dos números que vocês apresentaram, todos números muito altos, né? Milhões e milhões e milhões de dólares, na verdade, o mais importante é trabalhar na ponta, porque apesar de haver os perigos e o risco, o mais interessante é evitar que o sinistro aconteça. Okay?
As questões colocadas, esta última em concreto, foi muito interessante e queria aproveitar porque existe ainda alguma falta de conhecimento profundo como é que às vezes funciona todas estas questões do resseguro e todas estas questões do seguro. E até um bom momento para aproveitar, tal e qual como fez. Arcades é um broker, um corretor especialista em áreas muito específicas, como a energia, que dá, por sua vez, suporte à Bonws na construção da melhor solução, ou na solução mais customizada, ou na solução que é a solução ideal. O processo passa exatamente por isso. Apesar de eles serem brokers, mas funcionam, diria eu, quase como uma companhia seguradora, a única coisa que não fazem é exatamente assumir o risco. Portanto, a Arcades coloca depois o risco nas resseguradoras, e as resseguradoras o que é? É exatamente o seguro do seguro. Qualquer seguradora em Angola tem que usar do resseguro, tem que fazer a utilização do resseguro. Esse resseguro, como não temos nenhuma resseguradora em Angola até ao momento apesar de se falar na constituição da futura resseguradora de Angola, até lá todo o resseguro é colocado no exterior. O normal, temos também, para quem não conhece, temos a Africa Re. A Africa Re é uma seguradora de África. Temos a seguradora Terrestre, que não é de África, mas está aqui mais ou menos perto. Mas do resto, as grandes resseguradoras deste mundo estão todas colocadas fora, no continente europeu ou no continente americano. O trabalho da Arqueades, o trabalho destes senhores, eles por vezes vão muito mais além do que às vezes as próprias seguradoras. Em casos muito concretos, eles conseguem construir soluções que são eles que depois pedem às resseguradoras que façam o seguro das seguradoras. Era essa a explicação que eu gostava de acrescentar, porque às vezes o conceito de seguro, resseguro e quem está a fazer o quê, às vezes pode não ser muito bem entendido. O suporte da Arqueades é direto com a Bonws. A Bonws pensa as soluções em conjunto com a Arqueades, junto com os corretores que também trabalham com a Bonws, com os corretores seguros e com todos os outros clientes que necessitam de soluções customizadas, porque as genéricas ou aquelas que já são gerais, essas já estão de alguma forma efetuadas. Se não houver mais questões, eu diria que, apesar de termos começado um pouco mais tarde, mas se calhar fazemos um coffee break, se estiverem todos de acordo. E de seguida, então, o Mr. Harry passava a fazer a sua intervenção.